In 1992, it was a long time ago now, Popadia Christi and I visited Ukraine, and one of the places that we went was my father's village. And it was a very, very difficult time. It was only just about a year after communism had fallen, and it was still a very difficult situation. Essentially, it was still a collective farm. One person had a tractor, one had something else, and they still had to run it like a collective farm because nobody could afford everything they needed for their farms, and it was just a difficult life. And it was like going back in time 50 or 60 years. And I remember walking in a field with my uncle, and my uncle saying that we didn't do this for us. We did this. We for our children. And all the work and all the effort. He said this wasn't for us. These difficulties are for our children. I share that because we always have to bear in mind as we go through Holy Week that the various things that we hear in the life of Christ at this time, everything that he went through, he didn't do for him. He did for you and for me. That he did this for us. We say that every time we say the creed. We say it very quickly, and so maybe we don't really catch what we're saying. But we say that for us men, for us humanity and our salvation, he was incarnate. And he was suffered, and he was buried. And he rose again, and he ascended into heaven, and he shall come again with glory. For us, he did that. So as we're going through this week, and if you're looking at some of the other live streams of services at the monasteries or the other churches, or you're following our live streams, or we have the gospel readings for this week that we're posting online, and as you reflect upon these things that happen to Jesus this week, that all of it was for you and for me. And so as he's giving these teachings, you see, especially these very critical teachings in the Gospel of Matthew about the second coming and the judgment, and the parables of the virgins, and the parable of the talents. And then that's all Matthew 25. And Matthew 25 ends, he stops teaching in parables, and he says, this is what's going to happen when the Son of Man comes, and he talks about the judgment. You know, that's not an intellectual exercise for Jesus. He's trying to tell us what we need to know so that we can be with him in his kingdom forever. Never forget that from the very second that God said, let there be light, he knew how things were going to unfold. And he knew that he would have to send his son. And he knew his son would be betrayed and denied and abandoned and beaten and die. And he did all that anyway for you and for me. Everything that happens this week is an act of God's great love for us. Christ, his son, his great love for us. And that's why I said the other day that Jesus identifies the moment that he's on the cross as his great moment of glory. And that's the glory of his love. Going that far. So that even in our most painful, shameful moments in life, even in death itself, he could be present and fill those moments with his presence, because wherever there's Christ, there's healing and there's life. But it's all for us. He willingly endures it for you and for me because he loves each one of us by name. And he calls each one of us by name to be with him among those on his right hand, among the sheep, entering into the blessedness of his kingdom.